Hello from ABA Tech Show 2017 in Chicago, Illinois. I'm Laurence Colletti.
I'm Stacy Stern.
I'm Nicole Bradick.
And I'm Dan Lear.
And we're on the road with Legal Talk Network. And we're back. I'm sitting here with a very fun panel. We're getting ready to talk about some alternative topics today. And so leading into that, everybody here fancies themselves as an alternative lawyer career. And so we're going to start with that. There's a session out there called Alternative Uses for Your Law Degree. And I have with me the three speakers of that session here at ABA Tech Show in Chicago. And so I think we'll start with Stacy Stern. Tell us about your alternative career.
Well, I'm a serial entrepreneur. Currently, I'm the president of Justia. And we make legal information and resources easy to find online. Prior to that, I co-founded FindLaw, so I've been doing internet, legal resources, and marketing for over 20 years.
And Nicole Bradick.
So I am a former litigator. I was a civil rights litigator for about 8 years. Started my first company 6 years into practicing while I was on maternity leave with my second child, and that's not smart, don't do that. And now I own a company called CuroLegal. I'm Chief Strategy Officer at CuroLegal, and we build legal technology with a focus on innovating in the legal industry.
And what is the name of your counterpart at CuroLegal?
Chad Burton is my business partner.
Dan Lear.
Also a former lawyer.
I'm Dan. I do outreach and technology evangelism for the legal marketplace Avvo. I was a technology transactions lawyer for a number of years, and before that I actually worked as a paralegal at Microsoft, in Microsoft Game Studios. Actually have my name in a few video game credits. Yep, impresses my kids.
That's pretty cool.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there you go.
Learned something
And now I work for Avvo and talk to the legal sector about the intersection of technology, legal practice, and what lawyers can and should be doing in the future.
Well, this is interesting. 3 totally different paths. Start off in law school. You guys all have something in common. I was a lawyer at one time. I guess I still am, but I don't practice anymore. So now I'm a producer for Legal Talk Network.
You should do this panel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We should.
Yeah, you don't even need us.
But, this is really interesting because, I always, when I went to law school, I did think that I was going to use it for other things. I thought I would practice law, but I did think I would use it for business, business deals and structuring things. And it actually has come in quite handy, But you guys have gone in totally different directions. And so I know the alternative uses for your law degree, I think that'll be useful information for people out there. The legal profession is changing quite a bit. It's very competitive, and the opportunities aren't quite the same as they used to be. But you guys stand as shining examples that you don't have to be a regular practicing lawyer to make that law degree work for you. So I guess my first question is, what were some of the alternative uses that you guys talked about at the session?
So actually, I'm gonna object to something you just said.
What did I say that was objectionable?
You said that the opportunities aren't quite what they used to be, and I think that there's more opportunity than there ever was, and there's a broader range of opportunity than there ever was with a law degree. I think one of the things we talked about in our talk today was that there's some sort of traditional, non-traditional careers. So if you didn't quite like practicing in a private firm, you might go into academia or go to government work or something like that. So it was a very narrow set of possibilities, but now we've kind of blown that all up, and the set of opportunities is tremendous. And so I don't like to disagree with you, Laurence, because you're so dear to my heart. But I do think coming out of law school, yeah, it may be a little bit harder to get a traditional law firm job. But if you're thinking creatively and doing things a little differently and approaching your career with a bit more creativity, then it's really quite exciting how many opportunities there are.
I stand corrected. Stacy.
Well, there's so many different ways you can use your degree, and you don't even have to practice law. You can do something else. One of the things that I wanted to talk about on the panel was finding your passion and how important it is to follow what is really interesting to you. Because if you do what's interesting for you, you're going to be better at it. You're going to spend more time. And I gave an example of my brother-in-law, who is an art dealer, who's a very successful art dealer, who was a lawyer before that, and he uses his legal training every day in what he does. So you can do something involved in tech. There's tons of different areas involved in tech with law, but also non-tech. Following your passion is something I recommend.
And Dan.
Wow. Yeah, I really like what you said, Nicole. I think the path is much more diffuse, and the opportunities are much less apparent, at least immediately apparent, but they are much broader. And I think one of the things that came up in our panel that it was something Nicole said that I chimed in on was really being problem solvers. That I think that we have at our fingertips the ability to just as human beings, as people in this economy, to find and solve problems in a really compelling and amazing way, and in ways I don't think that maybe even folks 20 or 30 years ago had. And so while the traditional legal career path of I get hired by a firm right out of law school, I stay there for exactly 7 years, and then they make me a partner, and then I play golf for half the time for the rest of my life, that world is definitely gone. But the opportunity to find problems, to solve problems, to make a difference in the world, if you are creative, if you are entrepreneurial, those kinds of opportunities are more abundant than ever.
That's a nice segue into the next question I was going to ask. One of the things that law school taught me how to do is work really hard, and you have to consolidate an impossible amount of material, and you have to display that you understand, the requisite requirement there, to your professor on one exam. A lot of pressure, and it's a lot of work. And so for me, it made me better at those kind of tasks. It made me better at learning, made me better at understanding things. And also, I think this is one real important to me, critically think. That was something, and I think that's something in this world today I think we see far too little of, as people critically thinking, but that gave me that ability to look at this, both sides of a problem to try to come up with a better answer. But the lead into the question was, and Dan, you kind of started with this, was what are some of the skill sets that people coming out of law school have that lend very well to these alternative careers that you guys were discussing today?
Again, I'm going to be like Nicole and object to the question.
I object to your question as well.
I get a bit cynical about legal training these days, so I'll try to paint it in its best light. So one thing I will say about lawyers, and one thing that I frequently sort of hit on when I talk to groups of lawyers, is I fundamentally believe that most people go into law. Most people go into law in order to make a difference and to help people. And I actually distinguish that from a wide variety of other professions that people choose, right? And so I absolutely think that one of the skills is understanding that the legal system is important and understanding how it plays a role in our society. That's a really valuable skill. I think you're right, too. The ability to not be quite so... to be more thoughtful and to think about different angles of a problem. Unfortunately, I think too often that ends up with analysis paralysis. And I think in our world today, we need more, particularly in the legal sector, we need more doing and less analysis. But I do think that lawyers can be very strategically smart about problems and think about problems in different ways that people certainly don't. And legal training absolutely prepares you for that. You also end up being a pretty good writer, and I would definitely agree that that's in short supply and high demand in our economy, and obviously public speaking too.
So Dan thinks I'm wrong. Now I want to hear what Nicole thinks I'm wrong.
Oh no, I objected to the premise of your question, which is I believe your.
So now I'm wrong and objectionable.
Which I believe was, what skills do lawyers learn in law school that help them to chart these new courses? And I'm afraid we don't offer a lot of skills in law school right now to allow you to chart an alternative course to the norm. We actually had a great question from the audience during our talk. Somebody who's in academia who was asking, what can they do to better train and to launch students who are a bit more agile in their thinking and have a bit more flexibility and can approach these alternative careers. And so we had a good back and forth about that. And I think the consensus of the panel it was that they need to be exposed to people who aren't just practicing law. And that's exposure I never had in law school. I didn't ever meet anybody who was doing anything other than here's a guy who writes contracts. He's going to come in and talk to you about writing contracts. There's so much out there, and I think kids, I call them kids, they were all older than me. Students need exposure to that. But I think Stacy actually had a really good answer to the question about skill sets for alternative careers.
Well, in terms of training that we get in law school, I think the research, learning how to do good research is really important now, because with the internet, You can research so much. Dan was making this point online. You can just find anything. You can educate yourself. You can go on Lynda or your YouTube and learn a lot of information if you want to pursue an alternative degree. One of the things that I think is really important, that's been important for me in an alternative career, is sales skills and learning how to do sales, because that helps support our business. You need to have money coming in to have an entrepreneurial business. So sales skills and listening skills are very, very important.
All right, 2 last questions. So we talked about this a little bit, and I want to hit it again one more time. So passion. So I have learned this lesson painfully in my life, how important passion is to what you do and being good at it. And Stacey started talking about it earlier, but I kind of want to go around the table and hear from each of you, because you've chosen such different career paths. How important is passion in what you do today?
I think it's critical. I mean, I work tons of hours, and if I didn't have passion for making legal information and resources easy to find online, it wouldn't be sustainable. It's really important. It's absolutely critical. I read about this, the concept of passion in your career, in this book called A Monk and a Riddle, The Monk and the Riddle, by Randy Commissar, who is a former lawyer who became a VC. And it's a parable, and it's a great parable that I think anybody thinking about an alternative career should read. It's only, you read it in one sitting, but I think it's absolutely essential, and it makes your quality of life so much higher.
Nicole, is Stacey wrong or objectionable?
No, she's wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm only objecting to you today, apparently. For me, actually, the issue of passion is an interesting one, because I would not be doing what I'm doing if I weren't passionate for it. That being said, I went into the practice of law because I was passionate about doing civil rights work, and indeed, I became a civil rights attorney. But passion wasn't enough to carry the day for me, because I also didn't. The actual practice of law did not mesh well with my strengths and my personality, and so I found a new course that required passion plus. So I found passion, but something that really meshed well with my skill set. So I think passion is critical, but I don't think it's sufficient. I found the practice of law and doing the actual civil rights work and being on the ground. There's a lot that was really rewarding, but there was a lot that just really didn't work for me and who I am.
And Dan, what gives us this passion?
I think their answers were awesome. I'm going to take just a little bit of a different tack and say, I think that it's also key to find passion in the actual skill that you're exercising. I think there are so many things that in a sophisticated economy like the one that we live in that you can spend your time doing, right? You can whittle, you can play the guitar, there's so many different, even in the business world, there's so many different, you spend a lot of time in spreadsheets, you can write code, and I think at least one question that I didn't ask myself often enough and I think deeply enough was like, what literally do I want to spend my time doing? What thing feels good to me? What thing do I do that people respond to? Because I think while it's important to have passion for the subject matter, which both of these ladies have reflected on, I think it's also important to have passion for that part of yourself that you're developing, and that skill set that you're honing. Because that was one of the challenges with me with being a lawyer is like the actual exercise of like negotiating a contract or even reviewing a contract was like, it was painful to me. I was going to bring this up in the panel actually, like I felt like I had to do the work twice. I had to get myself excited to do it, and then I actually went ahead and did it. Whereas today, the work that I do, sure, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I gotta like gut my way through it, but I'm always eager to do it. I always have ideas about it. And I even find, and I think we all find this, when I'm doing that thing that I do well, there's a way that I excel at it that other people don't. And it just comes naturally. Like I want to do that. I want to dig in. I want to learn. And I express myself in that way. And so I think passion, not only for the topically is important or for the domain that you're working in, but also in the skill set that you're honing as you work.
All right, well, we're going to wrap it up with this question. So if our listeners out there want to contact you, talk a little bit more about this, how can they find you? Let's start back with Stacey.
You can find me on our website, justia.com, www.justia.com.
I'm not sure if our listeners should go out and find Nicole, but...
They absolutely should.
Lawrence,
If they want to meet a fabulous person, they should.
I feel like, Lawrence, we're going to have to do some relationship healing after this.
Maybe.
Yeah, we might have to hug it out a little bit. We're going to have to hug it out. Yeah, so you can find my company's website is CuroLegal.com. You can find me there, and I'm also on Twitter at Nicole Bradick.
But she's fun to follow, actually. So, all right.
It's good follow.
Yeah.
Hashtag good follow.
All right. How about you, Dan?
You can. I tell people all the time they can email me. They never do, so I don't know what that's saying. But email me at dlear, DLEAR, at Avvo, AVVO.com. Or find me on my social media drug of choice, Twitter, at RightBrainLaw.
Excellent. Well, we've reached the end of the road for this episode, but I want to thank our guests for joining us and our listeners for tuning in. And if you like what you've heard today, please find us, subscribe, and rate us in iTunes. Well, that's it. This is another edition of On the Road, the Legal Talk Network. All right. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Hug.
What's that?
Do you need a hug?
I know.
If you'd like more information about what you've heard today, please visit LegalTalkNetwork.com. Subscribe via iTunes and RSS. Find us on Twitter and Facebook, or download our free Legal Talk Network app in Google Play and iTunes. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer.